thank you to the amazing group that has organized a lecture series through the texting of messages. I always believe that brings you to the lowest common denominator, and I hope that's not how I have arrived here. And Monsanto now wanted to genetically engineer the eggplant. So a huge mobilization took place. The government was forced to hold public hearings. Never has a vegetable had public hearings before. For matters of the future of our species, for matters related to environmental responsibility, these matters are too vital to be left to governments. I never go for the fact that it was the efficiency of the steam engine that made Britain the superpower of that time. No, it was slave trade, it was forcing our peasants to grow cotton, it was forcing our peasants to grow indigo while they starved. That's what made Britain become wealthy. If they're sitting on anything we want, then it's ours anyway, no matter where it is. And that's what happened to poor oil. If you look at Iraq, you look at Afghanistan, Bin Laden was just a good excuse, a timely and good excuse. The real issue was oil. So we've built very, very violent systems. The systems are violent in production. They're violent in consumption. They're violent in dealing with solutions and the crisis that they generate. So now we have crises of every front. We've got a financial crisis, we've got a peak oil crisis, we've got a climate crisis, and we've got a food crisis. Ecological systems of farming with biodiversity, the kind of systems we promote through Navdanya, the movement that John mentioned, have about 10 times more biological production. They provide 10 times more food. And he shows how 10 kilocalories are used as input to provide 1 calorie of food. Ecological systems, on the other hand, can use 1 kilocalorie and produce food, 2, 3, 4, depending on how intense you can make your system biologically. The input is supposed to be everything you put into the system. The fossil fuels, the chemicals, the natural resources, the water. But if you look at how agriculture, the story of agriculture is told in terms of productivity, the only input considered is human labor. So what we are doing basically is creating what Amory Lovins called energy slaves. Everyone says, oh, 1 American farmer can now feed 150 people. No, 1 American farmer plus 300 energy slaves. And when I see the size of machinery in this country, to me, it's like war machinery. Because the land needs softer touch. The soil needs loving hands. Everyone doesn't have to have the same diet, but every part of this planet is productive. There's something to eat that the earth has given us. This beautiful universe is for the enjoyment for all. So it wasn't until 1965 when we had a drought, which was used as an opportunity to push the new varieties that Norman Borlaug had bred, the dwarf varieties. And these dwarf varieties could withstand the chemicals. That was how the Green Revolution began. And for those of you who think it was called green because people thought it would be green like sustainable, no, it was called green because it wasn't red, and red was the ugly color. What the Green Revolution has left us with is devastated soils, aquifers absolutely depleted, monocultures so horrendous that the pests are having a feast, the spraying of chemicals just doesn't stop, and we had terrorism in Punjab that took 30,000 lives. We now have genetic engineering, and it's called the second Green Revolution. And the second Green Revolution has accelerated this tragedy of farmer suicides. But the official data of farm suicides in India since 1997 is 200,000. If it wasn't farmers, if it was a tribe, it would have been called a genocide. It's part of a structural violence that's leaving farmers with no option. BT cotton is a genetically engineered cotton that has a BT toxin in it, which is supposed to control one pest, the bollworm family. Monsanto just announced 2 weeks ago that the bollworm has emerged resistant. They didn't say it to say we failed. They said it to force farmers into the next generation of BT, which is more costly, which only Monsanto can supply, and therefore their margin of profits will increase. What most people don't know is the existing varieties that have this resilience, the climate resilience built into them, have been evolved by farmers' selection over millennia. These are broad sweeping monopolies that are being attempted to be secured in a period where climate havoc is going to make us look for diversity. But diversity in the hands of 5 global corporations that hold patents on them is not security for people. These undemocratic structures impose a fossil fuel structure on societies and force the large-scale uprooting of peasants and indigenous people. We need a transition to a decentralized democracy in which the rights of the last person are respected. The dignity of the poorest and the weakest is respected. It's not going in to a supermarket and choosing between hundreds of cans with all of them using GM corn and soya ingredient. That's not freedom. Authentic democracy, like plants, grows from the ground up, and it is fertilized by people's participation and people's concern. Earth democracy begins and ends with Gaia's laws. The law of renewability, the law of conservation, the law of entropy, the law of diversity. I believe that in our times, if we have to have human rights, then the earth must have her rights. If the earth has her rights, we will have human rights. If the earth's rights are destroyed, our rights too will be destroyed. So it is another time, a very, very chaotic time, sometimes a time of despair, but also a time in which we are invited to unleash our most creative potential and our most democratic energies. So let's do it together. Thank you.